Well, what do you know? The verdict is in. The International Court of Justice, now known as the World Court, came back with their advisory opinion today, which is really a decision regarding the Venezuela Guyana border crisis. You're watching the final takeaway. Thanks for joining me. Well. The judge's decision is in and things are leaning in Guyana's favor. The court's decision specifically pertains to the Venezuelan government's plans to let the citizens help decide if the country should take over Essequibo, Guyana, and make it a Venezuelan state. Guyana came to the court for a solution, mainly asking the court to stop the referendum from going through because the questions appearing on the ballot can lead to the Venezuelan government and its military forcefully taking its territory and violating its sovereignty and international law in the process. The lawyer representing Guyana's interest, Mr. Paul Reichler, told the court this last month, and I'm quoting, "The collective decision called for here involves nothing less than the annexation of the territory in dispute in this case. This is a textbook example of annexation." And now for the court's decision. The president of the World Court, Joan Donoghue, read the decision in court earlier today. Here's a clip of the ruling.
The court indicates the following provisional measures. 1. Unanimously. Pending a final decision in the case, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute, whereby the Cooperative Republic of Guyana administers and exercises control over that area. 2. Unanimously, both parties shall refrain from any action which might aggravate or extend the dispute before the court or make it more difficult to resolve.
More importantly, this was a unanimous decision by the court, meaning all of the judges agreed to the decision to bar Venezuela from taking any action that can aggravate the ongoing dispute. Here's a little backstory on the current case before the court. Well, the now concluded case, because the court has ruled and passed down an advisory opinion or decision. Guyana, through its interest group made up of top officials, asked the court last month to issue an order to prevent Venezuela from going ahead with the special election, also called a referendum. The election concerns the disputed border of Guyana and the region called Essequibo specifically. Essequibo makes up 2/3 of Guyana, and the Venezuelan government, Venezuela as a whole, continues to claim that Essequibo belongs to Venezuela. The Venezuelan government is asking the citizens of its country whether they agree to annex or seize a part of Guyana's territory. Again, Essequibo is the disputed region. Other provocative questions are also printed on the ballot. But the potential unlawful acquisition of Essequibo is most troublesome for Guyana and international stakeholders. And that is question number 5 that appears on the ballot, which asks the Venezuelan citizens to vote whether they agree to Venezuela annexing Essequibo. Again, the lawyer representing Guyana told the court last month that the referendum aims at doing nothing less than taking Essequibo from Guyana. This is a textbook example of annexation, he said. So how does this ruling affect both countries? What does this ruling mean for both Guyana and Venezuela? Initially, this is a major setback for Venezuela, insofar as the special elections they plan to hold to ask their citizens if they are in agreement for the country to seize and control Guyana's territory. On the Guyana side, It's a huge victory, and Guyanese are celebrating this as a big win. However, it's not quite over yet. The border controversy is really far from over. Guyana also asked the UN court to confirm that Guyana is the rightful owner of Essequibo, as it was decided already in 1899 when the country was British Guyana. Here's the final takeaway for now. The court's ruling is binding both on Guyana and Venezuela, and more specifically Venezuela, since it's the country that's pushing to take over another country's territory. In other words, Venezuela could get in trouble with international law if they go against the order given by the court today. For example, if they do anything that is seen, perceived, or interpreted as aggravating the current dispute with Guyana any further. Since the court did not specifically state what actions Venezuela must refrain from doing, I take this to mean including holding a referendum on December 3, 2023. It's a no-brainer, right? But we have to wait and see how the Bolivarian Republic will handle the court's decision. Will it go against it or honor it? Because, again, behind all of this are other major issues and concerns. For example, one, the speculation that Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, is going ahead with this referendum in order to regain popularity for the next upcoming elections. Also, there is this other speculation and theory that Venezuela wants to take Essequibo because it is where Guyana found oil. And Guyana is now one of the largest, I think, oil producing countries, at least in the South American sphere. Needless to say, there is a chance that Venezuela could get in trouble with the United Nations laws if they go ahead and hold a special election in 2 days. Now, I imagine Venezuela will argue its right to hold the referendum as they did as a democratic country. We have to wait and see how this all plays out, because they can use that as a technicality. Hey, we are a democratic country, so we have a right to hold this referendum. No international law, no ICJ, no world court, same thing, cannot tell us what to do in our sovereign state. However, we all must remember, and this is also the biggest takeaway, the dispute is not against Venezuela holding a referendum, holding a special elections. The issue here is that on the ballot, Venezuela is asking its citizens to determine whether the country should go ahead and annex Guyana and annex Essequibo, take Essequibo, and that is where the major dispute lies. And the larger dispute is about the border. Where does Venezuela end and where does Guyana begin? And this matter for Guyana has been settled since 1899 with the arbitral award that was granted to the then British Guyana. And of course, Guyana, when it became independent in 1966, joined the agreement on the Geneva Agreement of 1966, that whereby Venezuela and Guyana pretty much agreed to seek the International Court of Justice to determine the dispute, should there be a continuous dispute about who really owns Essequibo. And instead of Venezuela trying to use the ICJ, which has jurisdiction, or which is the proper court to help determine this dispute, or at least hand down a decision as to how these two countries can resolve this controversy, Venezuela seems to be taking it on its own to decide how it should resolve this problem. But using a referendum is not the peaceful way to resolve this issue. Threatening an annexation, threatening a takeover of Essequibo is not the right way. We are talking about a sovereign country, an independent country whose borders were already defined more than 100 years ago, and Venezuela is saying it's ours, and Venezuela has not ceased. It continues to say that Essequibo, Guyana belongs to them. So we have to wait and watch to see how this will all play out, okay? And again, even though Venezuela has a right as a democratic country to hold a referendum, it is what it contains, is the contents of the referendum, the questions that are being asked that concerns the sovereignty of Guyana and putting the nation at risk. That's Guyana. That's where the issue is. And as Guyana's President Dr. Irfaan Ali said, this is no ordinary referendum. It's one that involves acquiring Guyana's territory outside of the proper and legal way for a country to extend its borders into another country. Guyana, this is an old, as I said, an age-old dispute that has been finally settled in 1899. At least this is how Guyana and other stakeholders view it, but not Venezuela. They insist on claiming Essequibo as their own. If you have some time, you could learn more about the history of this reignited dispute between these two sovereign and independent South American countries by clicking on the top right corner of your screen or visiting the channel page. There's a link there, or there's a video that I've uploaded there that explains in more detail the history behind this dispute. In case you don't know the role of the ICJ, the ICJ is a court that is made up of 15 judges who provide advice on international disputes, like this one that was brought before the court by Guyana. The role of the court in these types of cases is to settle disputes of a legal nature that a country wishes to be solved. The court offers advisory opinions in accordance with international law. Today, the court did exactly what it has been established to do. The court ruled earlier this year that it has the power to hear the case and ruled that the court can hear Guyana's case against Venezuela's referendum. Last month, both Guyana and Venezuela took turns arguing their claims to the court regarding the planned referendum to annex Essequibo. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez asked the ICJ to throw out the case. She further stated that her country will move ahead with the referendum regardless. The special election is scheduled for December 3rd, just 2 days away from today, as I said earlier. Now, we have to wait and see what will happen next. Hopefully, peace and goodwill will prevail between these two neighboring countries. I hope this update gives you more clarity on what's happening regarding the Venezuela-Guyana border crisis. I will be keeping you updated, so please hit the subscribe button. It's the black button below to stay connected and in the know. Thank you for watching The Final Takeaway.